לילה, ומשמורך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך, מור צאתך שא עינה הרים, אוי אוי נשים השרים בארץ, עמוד חכה על ינוחה ינוח יומם אשר לא יגע והלילה שמורך רע או נפשך אשר צאתך ועולה. הנה לא ינום ולא יישן שומר ישראל, השם שומרך השם על ימינך, ישבת לא יקק וירח עלי, השם מכל ישמור השם ישמורך והבאה והפרדל אשפות ים אביון אלוהים נדי תבינאי נאי נאי אוי בשמיים ובארץ, אוי מקימי מהפרדל מהשפות ירים אביון, אוי להושיבי עם נדיבים עם נדיבי ימות.
Okay, welcome to the World Alliance of Qara'im Shabbat Torah Study, and I am Hakham Melech ben Yaakov of the World Alliance of Qara'im, and let's quiet this music down a little bit. Okay, well, we're going to start studying. I didn't have as much time this week to do a study. Let me get rid of this. I was at the local Jewish community, which is it's basically Orthodox, but they're very open. They accept all types of people. They're super, super nice. So I go there on a regular basis. And so I was there for the Rabbinical Passover Seder last night, which I love to go to because I grew up as a not Orthodox, but as a Rabbinical Jew. My parents were conservative. Really, my dad was conservative. My mom was kind of reformed, but my dad set the religious tone in the house. And stop this. And so I love going to the Rabbinical Passover Seder. It reminds me of childhood. And then it ended very late last night. So by the time I got home and got to sleep, it was already around 3 a.m. So I didn't do a morning Torah study this week. And then I just really got into studying about Passover, Shabbat Shalom, QOR2. And so I really got into studying about Passover and got a little bit carried away. And so here we are. So we'll do a study for maybe about, I don't know, an hour or something like that. And it'll be at least perfect to read through last week's Parsha, which I didn't get a chance to do because I was also at the synagogue. They had a bar mitzvah there. So I had to go. And so we're going to be doing then Parshat Metzora, which is Leviticus 14 and 15, basically 14:1 through 15:33, and at least I'll try to get to read through it and maybe talk about it a little bit. There won't be that much time, but at least we'll be able to go through it. So with that being said, let me bring it up. And here we go. Chrome tab, no, window, Torah. There we go. Okay, and you should all be able to see the screen now. So we are, this out of the way. Okay, so we said we are in Leviticus 14, Leviticus 14 through 15. So let's bring that up. Leviticus 14 through 15. And here we go, cleansing the leper. As we found out, a Metzora is not a leper. There are various, well, nobody knows exactly what it is. But as we studied last week, according to Jacob Milgram, who is kind of an expert on it, it is some kind of scale disease, a disease that causes scales or perhaps whiteness. I can't remember exactly what he said, actually. I'd have to go back and look at it. But it's not leprosy. That much we know. So, okay. So let's read through starting in Leviticus 14. Actually, what does Milgram say? Let's see here. I think Robert Alter quotes Milgram, so let's find out. So this is going to be in, well, let's go directly to Leviticus 14. Okay, so Robert Alter translates it as skin blanch. And then he, I think it's Jacob Milgram. So Jacob Milgram is kind of a known expert on the book of Leviticus, especially the parts of the book of Leviticus having to do with the sacrificial cult and anything having to do with the role of the Kohanim and the Levites. So let me bring up his thingamajiggy. Okay, so Everett Fox, I believe, translated as scale disease. Let's go to him. Leviticus 14. Oh, that's a good guess right there. Leviticus 14. Okay, so he just transliterates it as tzara'at. And then we have, okay, that's Robert Alter. That's another Robert Alter. That's Ibn Evet, Ezra, Sefaria. This is our Rashi in case we need it. Actually, let me go back. And here we have, okay, close this down, we can close this down, this, and then I want it to open. Let's see here. Open file. Let's go to Torah, and Milgram, Anchor Bible. So this is Jacob Milgram. This is his commentary. And again, I think he translates it, if I remember, he translates it as scale disease, but let's just try to look where we are here, but we'll try to give it a shot. This one's 16. This is just the intro still, I think. Not sure where this is. All right, well, let's not get bogged down now. We can always look later since time is of the essence. We don't really have the luxury of getting bogged down. So we're going to start I will translate it using, if I need to, using Robert Alter's Skin Blanche, since he gives his reasoning for that. And here we are. We are in Leviticus chapter 14, verse 1. I will try to read in my best presumed ancient Hebrew accent, and which is still a work in progress. It's certainly not perfect, and nobody knows exactly how ancient Hebrew was pronounced, but this is what many scholars believe. So, yidaber. So we're in Leviticus chapter 14, verse 1. I'll try to point out the verses as best I can. Yidaber Yahweh el Moshe lemor zot ti'et torat ha-Metzora bayom taharato wahuva el hakohen ויצא הכהן אל מחוץ למחנה וראה הכהן והנה נרפא נגע הצרעת מן הצרוע. You know what? I've been trying lately to make a distinction between the kamats and the patach, and I've been trying different pronunciations. So I've been doing as the patach, and as the kamats. This is the kamats over here, and but I'm going to try something different. I think I'm going to try doing This is another presumed pronunciation. As for the patach, and for the kamat. So let's give that a shot. I'll try it again. וידבר יהוה אל משה לאמור זאת תהיה תורת המצורע ביום טהרתו והובא אל הכהן ויצא הכהן אל מחוץ למחנה וראה הכהן והנה נרפא נגע הצרעת מן הצרוע וציווה הכהן ולקח המטהר שתי ציפורים חיות טהורות ועץ ארז ושדי תולעת ואזוב וציווה הכהן ושחט את הציפור האחד אל כלי הרס על מים חיים. I'm not sure about this one, this pronunciation either. Maybe just this week I'm just going to skip making a distinction between the kamats and the patach, because it distracts me too much while I'm reading. I really want to focus on the meaning of the words because we have such little time. So let me start again from Leviticus 14:1, and I'm just gonna read it without that. Well, maybe I'll do it the way I was doing. All right, we'll figure something out. Okay. יהוה אל משה לאמור, זאת תהיה תורת המצורע ביום טהרתו, והובא אל הכהן, ויצא הכהן אל מחוץ למחנה, וראה הכהן, והנה נראה הצרעת מן השרוע. verse 4, וציווה הכהן, ולקח למיטהר שתי ציפורים חיות טהורות, ועץ ארז, ושני תולעת ואזוב. וציווה הכהן, ושחט את הציפור האחד אל כלי הרס על מים חיים, את הציפור החיה ייקח אותה, ואת עץ הארז, ואת שני התולעת, ואת אזוב, וטבל אותם, ואת הציפור החיה בדם הציפור השוחטה על המים החיים, והיזה על המטהר מן הצרעת שבע פעמים, וטהרו, ושילח את הציפור החיה אל פני השדה. One second, please. Okay. על פני השדה, וכיבס המטהר את בגדיו, וגילח את כל שערו, ורחץ במים, וטהר, ואחר יבוא אל המחנה, וישב מחוץ לאהלו 7 ימים, והיה ביום השביעי. We're in verse 9, by the way. היה ביום השביעי, יגלח את כל שערו, את ראשו, ואת זקנו, ואת גבות עיניו, ואת כל שערו יגלח, וכיבס את בגדיו, ורחץ את בשרו במים, וטהר. וביום השמיני ייקח 2 כבשים תמימים וכבשה. And I want to stop right here. I want to add this now to my list. Which I don't think we have. Let me go over here. Right, so we're making a list of all the different specific types of terms for animals. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so now we want to add, we do not have kapsa. We have kevis, which is a baby lamb, and it could be apparently a young, it could be a male or a female, appears in Leviticus 9:3, but now we have kapsa, or kifsa. With kapsa, I'm not sure why it's kapsa here, not kifsa. Might be some grammatical reason, which I'm not aware of. So this is now let's grab this. So kifsa, and this is going to be, we said this is in Leviticus 14:10. Leviticus 14:10. So kevis is a lamb, a baby lamb. So this is going to be where is it? A ewe lamb. So a ewe, noun feminine, ewe lamb. So a ewe, just to make sure, since I'm not even familiar with some of these English terms, a ewe, as far as I know, is a female, right? Let's just look up ewe, define ewe. Female sheep. So there we go. Okay. So right. So let's grab this. Female ewe lamb. Nathan's parable. I love that Nathan's parable to David. So, yeah, one little ewe lamb. So, okay, so then it would seem, so let's put this as ewe lamb. Ewe lamb. Ewe lamb. And so this is also a baby. So this is a baby female lamb. Here you, I could put female you. Okay, let's do it like this. Female. So the sex is a female, the age is young, and the species is what's the same as kevis. This is a sheep, so this is also going to be a sheep. Okay, so this is a young female sheep. Okay. Cool. So that's that. And let me just make sure once again, a ewe very specifically is a female sheep, not a female sheep or a goat, just a female sheep. Okay, so we have here these different phrases. So we have kevis is a lamb, and kipsa is a female lamb. And kevis, I think, is a general term for either male or female, right? Or actually, the male, term can often include female, male, or female, just as does today, as as you might say in modern English, although not so much anymore. When a pilot flies over the clouds, he cannot see the ground, right? So that would include he or she. So it's the same thing here. This kevis, I believe, would include a male and female. Okay, so kifsa is specifically a young female sheep. Cool. There we are. So the kafsa hat bat shinata. It says bat shinata, so that implies female, right? תמימה ושלושה עשרונים סולת מנחה בלולה בשמן ולוג אחד שמן. Verse 11. והעמיד הכהן המטהר. And by the way, we have two words that look similar. Hamitaher. This is the Kohen Hamitaher, the Kohen who is doing the purification. And then we have the one who's being purified. And right here, that is Hamitaher. Okay? So this is with a shva, mitaher, and this is hamitaher. This is with a chirik. This is with a single dot below it. Okay? Same vowels. Now, I have to admit, I'm not sure why this would be vowelized this way, hamid taher. I would have to look up grammatically why that would be the case. In standard modern Hebrew, and even in biblical Hebrew, you would say hamid tuhar, the one who is purified. Or you might say hamid har, which also would imply a noun made out of the verb or out of the root tahar, which would imply, again, hamid har might be someone who is also purified. So I'm not sure why it's mit taher. Maybe it's similar to what would be in modern Hebrew hamid har, which would imply also kind of the person receiving the purification. But I would have to look this up grammatically. But at any rate, we have to be careful of these two different words, which are clear from the context. HaKohen hamid taher et ha'ish hamid taher. Hamid taher. Or maybe hamid har. No, it's clearly hamid taher. Okay. האיש המטהר ואותם לפני יהוה פתח אוהל מועד ולקח הכהן את הכבש האחד והקריב אותו לאשם ואת לוג השמן והניף אותם תנופה לפני יהוה ושחט את הכבש במקום אשר ישחט את החטאת ואת העולה במקום הקודש כי חטאת האשם הוא לכהן קודש Dashim, Kadoshim Hu. And we learned that when something is called Kodesh Kadoshim, that whatever it touches now turns holy. So anything that's designated as Kodesh Kadoshim, if it touches something directly, then that thing becomes also holy, which now means it's sanctified to God. However, the thing that it touches does not become Kadosh Kadoshim. It does not become holy of holies, so it can't transfer further the status of holiness. It stops there. So let's say I have a lamb shank. I don't know which is Kadosh Kadoshim. Okay, it's part of a I don't know. Let's say I have this sacrifice, right, that they're talking about right here. Okay, and I touch it to another animal. Okay, kosher animal. That animal now becomes sanctified to God. However, if that other animal touches a third animal, then that third animal does not become sanctified to God. Okay, so Kadosh Kadoshim touches something, the thing it touches becomes Kadosh, but if something that's Kadosh touches something, then it does not change its status. So Holy of Holies touches something, it becomes holy. Holy touches something, it does not change its status. Okay. And we saw in, where was it again? Habakkuk? No, it wasn't Habakkuk. I don't remember. Hosea, maybe it was, that whichever prophet it was, I'd have to go back and look it up, but we spoke about it last week, gives the analogy that if something is a tameh, something is impure, that impurity can pass from one thing to the next. So if A is impure and it touches B, B becomes impure. B touches C, now C is impure, and so on and so forth with no limit. However, if something is holy, if something is holy of holy, then when it touches something, it transfers it. Now that thing now becomes holy, but when that holy thing touches something, it does not transfer it any further. Okay, so we spoke about that. We spoke about that last week. Okay, so I would love to find out. We'll get too sidetracked. Okay, so let's do it. We'll get sidetracked. Let me find it here. We have to go back in the text messages. Okay. Search. Maybe it's here. One second. Oh, not that. Okay. Now I'm not going to find it. Wait a second. Holy. Let's see. Here it is. This is going to be it. Holiness is not contagious, but unholiness is. Well, I don't know what this person is, but hopefully it'll quote. There it is, Haggai 2:12. Okay. So let's look for a second at Haggai 2:12. Haggai 2:12. Come here, Haggai. Run away, Haggai. Come back, Haggai. So Haggai 2:12. Hebrew. And this was a verse that was brought by Ariella. Oh, shoot, why is that happening? 2:1. Okay, well, we don't need that version. That happens sometimes. I'm not sure exactly why. So Haggai 2:12 says, "Hen." Okay, so verse 10, we'll start here. So on the 24th day of the 9th month, the 9th month is Kislev? I think Kislev is what we would now call Kislev. So the same month as. Actually, this is actually pretty interesting. This is. Let me just verify that before I say what I'm about to say. So months. You counter McGill School of Computer Science. What? Okay, so yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 is indeed Kislev. So this means this is on the 24th of the 9th month, the 24th of Kislev, which ironically, although I don't think there's any connection whatsoever, right? I don't think so. Is would have been one day. Well, Hanukkah did not yet exist, but would have been one day before the day of Hanukkah. Hanukkah starts on the 25th of the 9th month, 25th of Kislev. Anyway, neither here nor there. I don't believe that let's see. If we think of the book of Maccabees, the Israelites chose the 25th of Kislev. No, but I don't think there was any other connection other than the fact that they just happened to reach the Temple Mount on that day. So, at any rate, interesting coincidence. At any rate, in the Bishnat Shtein Dariavesh, in the second year of Dariavesh, Dariavesh is the king of Persia, also known in English as Darius. So the word of Yahweh was upon Haggai, the prophet, to say, Ko Amar Yahweh Tzivaot. So says the Lord of hosts, Sha'alna et Kohanim, Torah lemor, ask the Kohanim, the law, and they will say, and say, okay, so what's interesting here is we see that when the people want to ask the law specifically with regard to the issues of holiness and unholiness, of purity and impurity, of tahara and tu'umah, that who do they go to? They go to the Kohanim, just as we saw in Deuteronomy 17, 12, 17, wherever it speaks about going to the Kohanim, that famous verse. I always forget the chapter. I think it's 17, 12. At any rate, 9, 12, 7, 12. I don't remember. At any rate, another interesting thing here, they're asking him Torah. They're not asking him to explain the Torah. They're asking him to explain the instructions or the law. Torah just means instruction or law from the underlying root hara, he, resh, he, where you get words such as hore, which means parent, more, which means teacher, etc. Okay, so ask for instruction and say, if a person should carry holy meat in his in the knaf bigado, in the edge of his garment, okay. Pocket, I think they usually translate this as, but literally means the extremity of his garment. It's the same place of the garment. We are supposed to put the tzitzit on the kanaf. We're supposed to put the tzitzit on the edge or the extremity of the garment. So I think it just means in this case, I think they usually translate it, as I said, as pocket. But I don't have access. I'm looking at different versions, so I don't have access to the English translation here. So, but it really means the extremity, the edge of the garment. But basically, carrying it in his garment, and he touches and he touches with this garment or with the edge of this garment el halechem el anazid. So if the garment touches either bread or porridge. Nazid is the same thing that the same word that's used regarding the porridge that Yitzhak makes for Esav. So what elayayin or to wine, or elashemen makol marachal hayikdash. Okay. So they're just giving different examples of types of food. So this is bread or porridge or wine or oil, or el kol melacha, or to any type of food. Hayikdash, will it become holy? Will this food stuff become holy? V'ya'anu kohanim v'amru lo, and the Kohanim answered and said no. Okay. So what does this mean? So if something is Isa ish basar kodesh. Okay, so really, I think the implication here is not holy meat, but actually kadosh kadoshim. Okay, but it's just being abbreviated here, kodesh. So it will transfer. Okay, b'knaf b'gadol. Okay, so here it will transfer its holiness into the piece of clothing. The piece of clothing becomes holy, but the piece of clothing will not transfer it any further. The piece of clothing will not make the food stuff that it touches, because the holy meat is being separated from the target, which would be the bread or the porridge or the wine or the oil, by this interceding piece of clothing. And so we see that the holiness only goes forth once. It goes to the clothing, but the clothing doesn't impart it any further. The Kohanim said, no, it will not. That food stuff that the clothes touches will not become holy. Verse 13, "Oyomer Haggai im yirat tamei nefesh v'chol ela hayitma v'ya'anu hakohanim v'yamru yitma." And then Haggai said, if someone who is impure touches any of these things, yes, Kohanim, if they touches any of these things, these foodstuffs, will they become impure? And the Kohanim answered, yes, yitma, they will become impure. Okay, so what does this show? This shows that the impurity is transferred forward. Okay, but the purity or the cleanliness is not transferred forward more than once. Okay. Yan Haggai yomer ken ha'am hazeh v'ken hagoy hazeh lefanai ne'um Yahweh v'chen kol ma'aseh yadehem v'asher yakrivu sham tamehem. So then he goes on to say, well, basically that's what Israel's like. They're just spreading their unholiness all over the place. Okay, they won't spread their holiness. Okay, because holiness can only spread a little bit, but they're like something that's unholy, just spreading all over the place. Okay, so typical kind of chastisement or excoriation of the people of Israel. Shalom, Paul. Shalom, Ricky. Shalom, Moshe. Shalom, Ricky and April. Shalom, everybody. Okay, so there we go. So let's go back now to Leviticus. And that's what we see here. We see that the this sacrifice that's brought on the 8th day has a status of kadosh kadoshim. It can transfer, if it touches something, that thing becomes holy. Okay, it becomes dedicated to God. Okay. ולקח הכהן מידה מהשם ונתן, verse 14, הכהן על תנוך אוזן המטהר, and here we have meat טהר, the mem has below it a chirik, and the taf has below it a patach. So this is the one who is being purified, again, as opposed to the Kohen who is doing the purification. That's hamit taher. That's exactly the same. What's the word I'm looking for? Consonants, but the vowelization done by the master is different. So in the Kohen who is doing the purification, we have a shva, a simple shva below the mem, and we have a patach below the tet. So that also has a patach below the tet. So the only difference would be under the mem. Here it has a shva, and here it is a harik. Okay, so that would again imply passivity, the one who is receiving the purification. And I'm not sure why grammatically. I would have to look it up. So the only thing I could think of, perhaps, which may or may not be correct, is if you have the simple verb or the underlying root tet he resh, which means pure, right? Then in the simple form, the pa'al form, it would be tahar. Okay, he became pure would be hu tahar. Okay, and then again, depending on the meaning of the underlying root, or depending how the root is permuted over the different verb forms, you don't always use the simple pa'al. So in this case, if you were to use the passive form of that verb, okay, this would be what we call the nif'al form. It would be hanitar, okay. So it's possible that what's going on here is hanitar is a little bit cumbersome to say. It's easier to say hamitar, because the ha is already, if you make a ha sound, right? You already see that it's closer to a m than it is to a n. N is you have to kind of put your tongue up on top of your where your teeth meet your palate. Dental, what do they call that again, Volk? Where your teeth meet your palate? Dental, where your teeth meet your palate if you put your tongue there. I forgot what's the grammatical term for that, or what's the phonetic term for that? Up in the top corner, it doesn't matter. At any rate, so it would be easier to say, you should say perhaps, again, this is speculation. I would have to look it up grammatically, but it should be a ozenhat, and we're talking about this word here in Leviticus 14:14. Maybe it should be hanitar, but it's not so easy to say hanithar. It's easier to say hamithar because hey has an open mouth, kind of a central open mouth is the way I can explain it. Mem is also central. It's a labial consonant where the two lips come together. So it's hamithar might just be easier to say, or hamitaher might just be easier to say than hanithar, and so that may have been permuted from hanithar to hamitaher or hamithar. I'm not sure. That's speculation. But at any rate, we do see a clear distinction between the Kohen who's doing the purification, Hamit Taher, with the Shva below the Mem, and the person who is receiving the purification, who is becoming purified, right? And this is with a Chirik below the Mem. At any rate, Ozan Hamit Taher Hayemanit, Wa'al Bohen Yado Hayemanit, Wa'al Bohen Regalo Hayemanit. Verse 15. ולקח הכהן מלוג השמן ויצק על כף הכהן השמאלית וטבע לכהן את אצבעו הימנית מן השמן אשר על כפו השמאלית והיזה מן השמן באצבעו 7 פעמים לפני יהוה. Verse 17. ומיתר השמן אשר על כפו ייתן הכהן על תנוך אוזן המטהר. Again, this is the one who is being purified. הימנית, ועל בוהן ידו הימנית, ועל בוהן רגלו הימנית, על דם האשם. Verse 18, והנותר בשמן, אשר על כף הכהן ייתן על ראש המטהר, וכיפר עליו הכהן לפני יהוה, ועשה הכהן אל החטאת, וכיפר על המטהר מטומאתו. ואחר ישחט את העולה, והעלה הכהן את העולה ואת המנחה, המזבחה, ויכפר עליו הכהן וטהר. Okay, so this is again someone who's being someone who has leprosy and is being cleansed of that leprosy. Okay, and if we had more time, we'd get into it more. So remember, before we spoke about leprosy, we spoke about other types of wait 1 second. One second here. No, my mistake. We did not. Everything is about leprosy as it applies to different things. It's always use the word Metzora. Okay, starting at verse in Leviticus 13. Okay, right. So, 1 second. Wait 1 second here. Let me just see one more thing. One second. 12, 11. It's clean, unclean animals. Nadav and Avihu. Right, and those just the offering. Okay, so my mistake. Yeah, we only started talking about leprosy in Leviticus 13. Okay. So again, this is how to detect leprosy. And then here we have the cleansing from the leprosy. Okay. So where were we? we were in, I believe, verse 21 here. Verse 21, "Im dal hu ein yado maseret לקח כבש אחד שם לתנופה, יכפר עליו ועיסרון סולת אחד בלול." Second, please. Okay. כבש אחד שם לתנופה, לכפר עליו ועיסרון סולת אחד בלול בשמן למנחה ולוג שמן. ושתי תורים ושני בני יונה אשר תשיג ידו וחיה אחד חטאת ואחד עולה. So this is again im dalhu ein yado masegel. So if he can't afford the above sacrifices, right, which are two kfasim. Kfasim are specifically, let's look. So keves is very specifically a baby lamb. Okay, keves is a baby lamb. So we'd have to take two baby lambs, and another female baby lamb. So again, kfasim, I'm not sure if this means, I think in this context it might mean specifically male. I may have to amend this over here. Here I put kevis is either male or female, but it might very specifically be male. But let's just leave it at that for now. Any rate, much more expensive sacrifices there. If he's not wealthy enough to afford such a thing, then he has this alternative over here where he takes one lamb, and he takes a tenth of a solet of flour, balul b'shemen, with oil, lamincha u'alog shemen. He takes a log that's a liquid volume of shalman, of oil, u'shtei torim, and now he takes two torim is turtle doves and bnei yonah is pigeons. So basically, it's a less expensive sacrifice. Asher tasig yado haya ehad hatat ve'ehad ola. Verse 23, wahevi otam bayom hashemini לטהרתו אל הכהן אל פתח אוהל מועד לפני יהוה, ולקח הכהן את הכבש האשם ועלוג השמן והניף אותם הכהן תנופה לפני יהוה, ושחט את כבש האשם ולקח הכהן מדם האשם ונתן על תנוך אוזן המטהר, and that's with a chirik, so that's the one who's being purified, a yemonit, ועל בוהן ידו הימנית, ועל בוהן רגלו הימנית. Verse 26, ומן השמן יצעוק הכהן על כף הכהן השמאלית, והיזה הכהן באצבעו הימנית מן השמן אשר על כפו השמאלית 7 פעמים לפני יהוה. Verse 28, ונתן הכהן מן השמן אשר על כפו על תנוך אוזן המטהר הימנית, ועל בוהן ידו הימנית, ועל בוהן רגלו הימנית, על מקום דם האשם. והנותר מן השמן אשר על כף הכהן ייתן על ראש המטהר לכפר עליו לפני יהוה. ועשה את האחד מן התורים ומן בני היונה מאשר תשיג ידו, את אשר תשיג ידו, את האחד חטאת ואת האחד עולה, על המנחה וכיפר הכהן על המטהר לפני יהוה. זאת תורת אשר בו נראה צרעת אשר לא תשיג ידו בטהרתו. Okay, and then we go into homes. So I think I'm actually, since I don't have a lot of time left, I think I'm actually going to skip that. I'll read through it very quickly to be complete. All right. Verse 33. וידבר יהוה אל משה ואל אהרון לאמור. Verse 34. כי תבואו אל ארץ כנען אשר אני נותן לכם לאחוזה, ונתתי נגע צרעת בבית ארץ אחוזתכם. Verse 35. ובא אשר לו הבית ויגיד לכהן לאמור, נגע nira li babayet. So this is actually a house that catches, well, we're not calling it leprosy, that catches, what are we calling it? Blanching. Well, how does Robert Alter translate it here, actually? Can't translate it as skin blanching. So let's see. Okay. So actually, maybe it's not called Sarat at all here with regards to a house. All right, let's read on. So, Uba asher lo habayet, verse 35, Wa'agi la kohen lemor kanega nir ali babayet, Watziva kohen wa pinu et habayet be'terem yavo kohen lirot et hanega, ולא יטמע כל אשר בבית ואחר כן יבוא הכהן לראות את הבית. הוא ראה את הנגע והנה הנגע בקירות הבית שכארורות. So the NIV is translating that as with ingrained streaks. Rakot, so yarok means green, so greenish. Or adam damot, or reddish. ומראהם שפל מן הקיר. ויצא הכהן מן הבית אל פתח הבית, והסגיר את הבית 7 ימים. ושב הכהן ביום השביעי וראה, והנה פסע הנגע בקירות הבית. וסיווה הכהן והחלצו את האבנים אשר בהן, ונגע והשליכו הן אל מחוץ לעיר, אל מקום טמא. So in this case, they just take out, so if something's looking weird, the house has, we'll call it leprosy, quote unquote, then they take out the stones that have the leprosy and they toss them outside the city. El makom tameh, to a place, literally an impure place, but I guess it means a place where they stored anything that was impure, like an impurity dump or an impurity heap, kind of like a garbage heap. Wa'eth, הבית יציע מבית סביב שפכו את העפר אשר קיצו אל מחוץ לעיר אל מקום טמא. verse 42, ולקחו אבנים אחרות והביאו אל תחת האבנים ועפר אחר ייקח ותח את הבית. So basically they replace the stones. They clean it out and replace the stones. ואם ישוב הנגע ופרח בבית אחר, החלץ את האבנים ואחרי יכסות את הבית ואחרי יתוח. So after they've done all this, ובא הכהן וראה והנה פסע הנגע בבית הסרעת. So here it is called sara'at. So here it is called, well, he usually translates it as skin blanch. So let's see what he translates it as here, Robert Alter. So it's going to be 1444. I just translate it as blanch, I would imagine. This is weird. So here he calls it malignant scale disease in the house. Okay, because I thought he rejected the idea of it being called scale disease, which is what Jacob Milgram calls it, but alrighty. Interesting. I don't know what his reasoning is, but we don't really have a lot of time, so I'm just going to go on. Verse 45. When Atatz et Abayit et Avanav et, is that where we were? Yes. Verse 45. When Atatz et Abayit et Avanav wa et Itzau wa et kol afar Abayit v'hotzi el mechutz la'ir el makom tameh. Well, you're out of luck then. The entire house is destroyed. We gave it a chance. We cleaned out the stones that had the scale disease or the blanching or whatever it might be, and we put new stones in. We got rid of all the tar that, we tarred them back in. We got rid of all the dust that might have touched them, threw it away, and we gave the house a chance to be repaired that way. But if it comes back, that's it. The whole house gets destroyed. I hope you have leprosy insurance. If you don't, everyone should run out and get leprosy insurance on your house. You don't want to get caught without, having your house having to be destroyed by the Kohen because you don't have proper leprosy insurance. So I actually have a friend who will give you an excellent leprosy insurance. So just call 1-800-leprosy and we'll set you up. All right. So where were we? Right. Verse 46. وَحَبَّا إِلَى بَيْتْ كُلْ يَمِي يسكير أوتو يطمع عاد هعرف. So this is now referring to up above, I believe, where the house was. No, maybe it's after it was closed. Okay. At any rate, يتمنى أربع وشخيب ببيت يخبس بغضب ويأكل ببيت يخبس بغضب. Verse 48. وإم بو يبو الكهين والرعاة وهني لو بصا نجا. So now that they replaced the stones and it didn't spread again. ببيت حري طه البيت والتهار كهين البيت كي نربا النجا. So the house is cured. ולקח לחטא את הבית שתי ציפורים ועץ ארז ושני תולעת ואזוב. So now we do this purification ritual, which is very similar to the purification ritual mentioned up above for cleaning the leper. So the house is cleansed of its leprosy in much the same way. So here we see that l'chateh means to disinfect, to purify. Not to purify, there's a very specific word that we had used. Purification from offense, right? So again, Robert Alter was calling the chatat an offense offering, and Jacob Milgram was calling it a purification offering. So we were calling it a purification from offense offering. Okay. So in this case, so in this case, it means to purify, very specifically. In modern Hebrew, lechateh means to disinfect. So it's not related to the word litaher. It's lechateh. It's really different from purify, but it means the same thing. Here they translate it as cleanse. We'll go with disinfect, just for the heck of it. שני תולעת ואזוב, ושחט את הציפור האחת על כלי חרס על מים חיים, ולקח את עץ הארז ואת האזוב ואת שני תולעת ואת הציפור החיה, וטבל אותם בדם הציפור השחוטה במים החיים, והחיזה אל הבית 7 פעמים, וחיטה את הבית בדם הציפור ובמים החיים ובציפור החיה ובעץ הארז ובאזוב בשני התולעת, ושילח את הציפור החיה אל מחוץ לעיר אל פני השדה, וכיפר על הבית וטהר. Verse 54. So that's the purification of the house. We replaced the stones. The leprosy, again, scale disease, did not grow back. So now we do this purification ritual, and the whole thing's, good to go. Zot Torah lechol nega tzoraat ve'la natek. Right. So let me just flip this word natek for 1 second. Yeah, we spoke about this last time, right? Right. So they call this scale because linatik, right? Netik is a scab, something that's in modern Hebrew. Linatik means to disconnect. Like if you don't pay your phone bill, they may linatik your telephone. They may disconnect your telephone. So netek means something that's disconnected. They translate it as a scab or a scale. That's where you get this idea of scale disease from the words that were used to describe it. At any rate, let's move on. So that's what it's referring to. So this is now a summary statement for all of Leviticus 13 and 14, right? So Leviticus 13 and 14, they deal with leprosy. And as often is the case, we have an introductory statement at the beginning of the topic. So here, Adam ki yeh be'or basaro se'et l'safachato b'heret ve'haya be'or basaro l'neged tzarat. So this is kind of the introductory statement regarding leprosy in human beings. And now we have the closing statement for that topic. And this is what it says here in verse 54. Zot Torah lechol neged tzarat u natex. This is the instructions. These are the instructions, or this is the instruction for all affliction of skin blight or scab disease. Again, we don't know exactly what the translations of these things are. For the regarding the scale disease or the skin or the blanching of clothing and or of one's home. Okay, because we also spoke about clothing, right? Where was that? Yeah, here in Leviticus 13. Okay. So different types of afflictions here. So this is the summary sentence for what colloquially is called leprosy. We'll read through this very quickly. My battery's running out and it's getting late. So we're in Leviticus chapter 15, verse 1. Are there any questions or comments at this point, by the way? Any questions or comments? If so, please feel free to type it in. So this is now talking about an omission from, it says me basro, but it's clear, which means from his flesh, but it's clear from the context here that that's really just a euphemism for the penis. So let's even see. So this is Leviticus 15, Robert Alter. Right, from his member. Well, he's being also euphemistic. Okay, and let's see what he has to say about that. The primary meaning of the noun basar is flesh. In the preceding chapter is used as a sinik doche before body. Here it is an obvious euphemism for the sexual organ, right? So the Torah will also often speak, when it's speaking about sexual or private things, will often speak in euphemisms, and we see that here. So this is some kind of what would be the word in English? I forgot. Some kind of not flow. What's the word I'm looking for? Emission or pus coming out of one's penis. That's what it's speaking about here. Okay. So tameh, he becomes impure. וזאת תהיה תומתו בזובו רר בשרו את זובו או החתים בשרו מזובו את תומתו היא. כל המשכב אשר ישכב עליו עזב יטמא, וכל הכלי אשר ישב עליו יטמא. So anything he lies on or sits on becomes impure. And remember, we know that impurity can transfer further. According to Haggai 2:12, we know that impurity will transfer pretty much indefinitely from one object to the next. Right? So someone who touches his bed. Same thing if he comes in contact, sits on something that the person has sat on. And anyone who touches his, does this mean flesh, or does this, again, this is the same word basar? I would imagine that this also is referring to penis. So maybe the doctor, or I don't know, a very good friend, I guess, something like that. Whoever touches his penis is now also going to be become tameh. On the other hand, this may just mean his flesh in general. Let's see how Robert Alter deals with that. So this is Leviticus 15:7. Yeah. So here, right. So Robert Alter points out again, the noun used means flesh, but the case of touching the person's genitals is an unlikely one, so the term should be construed here as a synecdoche for body. Abraham ibn Ezra succinctly observes whatever member or limb it may be. Right. So I would agree with that assessment. Actually, so speaking in this case, even though this uses the same word as above when it meant penis, here it probably just means body. Okay. וכי ירוק הזהב בטהור וכיבס בגדיו ורחץ במים וטמא עד הערב. וכל המרכב אשר ירכב עליו הזהב יטמא. So there's anything he rides on, like a horse or a chariot, whatever the case may be. Well, it's speaking about an animal, so horse, maybe a camel. וכל הנוגע בכל אשר יהיה תחתיו יטמא עד הערב, והנושא אותם יכבס בגדיו ורחץ במים טמא עד הערב. Verse 11, וכל אשר ייגע בו הזהב וידיו לא שטף במים וכיבס בגדיו ורחץ במים וטמא עד הערב. וכלי חרס אשר ייגע בו הזהב יישבר וכל כלי עץ ישתף במים. Okay, so that's again the impurity that a person who has a flow coming out of his private part, a male who has a flow coming out of his private part, or that either flows or it's his hichtim that basically stops it up, right? Stops up the hole. Then that's the law. He spreads his impurity basically. Verse 13. So when it stops, with safar lo shivat yamim, and afterwards he has to count 7 days. And tarato. So he waits 7 days, counts 7 days, then he washes clothes, and then he's officially back to a status of being pure, being clean. וביום השמיני ייקח לו 2 תורים ו2 בני יונה ובא לפני יהוה אל פתח אוהל מועד ונתתם אל הכהן ועשה אותם הכהן אחד חטאת ואחד עולה וכיפר עליו הכהן לפני יהוה מזובו. And then he brings a sacrifice of either 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons. ואיש כי תצא ממנו שכבת זרה ורחץ במים. So that was speaking about a zav. Now this is just someone who shichvat zera, just a release of semen. Okay, or rachatz b'mayim kol bisaro tamei ad ha'arev. So he should wash his entire body, and he's impure until the evening. Okay. By the way, I don't think this means that every time one has a seminal emission they have to wash their body, but it means that until they wash their body, that they will remain impure, and when they do wash their body, then the impurity will disappear at that evening. וכל אור אשר יהיה עליו שכבת זרע וחופש במים וטמא עד הערב, ואישה אשר ישכב איש אותה שכבת זרע ורחצו במים טמאו עד הערב. So now this is a man and a woman having sexual relations. They both become impure until the evening. Okay, they have to wash their flesh and they become impure until the evening. Now we're talking about a woman. So this is now a zava. This is a woman who also has some kind of strange flow coming out of her private part. Okay. So this is a flow of blood. So this is now a regular period. Okay. And a regular period lasts 7 days. So this is talking about a flow of blood, and it's expected. So she now stays in her nidata for her separation for 7 days. And anyone who touches her becomes impure until the evening. Verse 20. So again, the same kind of thing. This impurity spreads. Anything she lies on, sits on. Verse 22. Verse 23. So if a man has relations with a woman while she's having her period, then he becomes impure for 7 days from that point. Later on, we'll see in Leviticus 18, I believe it is, that it's explicitly forbidden for a man to have relations with a woman while she's in her 7-day period. But nonetheless, this is speaking about now what one should or shouldn't do, but what the consequences regarding purity or impurity are if one doesn't. So you're not supposed to do it, but if you do it now, that person is now impure for 7 days. The man is impure for 7 days. Wishaki yazov zov dama yamim rabim belo et nidata or ki tazov et al nidata kol yemei zov tumato ki me nidata et mea hi. So if now she has an irregular flow, so it's as if she's in her period. She's impure. So if it's a regular period, she's impure for 7 days. If it happens not at the time of a period or it lasts more than 7 days, then she becomes impure until it disappears, basically. Okay? And then after that, she has to go through a purification period, as we'll see. Verse 26. So in the case of, I guess one of the big takeaways here, my battery's about to go dead, so I'm going to end this in a second, is that if a woman has a regular period, she does not, at the end of that 7-day period, the Torah does not say anything about bringing a sacrifice or, especially in our modern times relevant, or going to a mikvah. She just automatically, after the 7 days, becomes pure. And we see that right here. Okay? Shivat yamim ti'eh b'nidata. And that's it. It doesn't say, it doesn't say anything other than that. She's just impure for 7 days. She doesn't have to do anything at that point to end her impurity because it's just a regular thing that happens every month. She doesn't have to go to the mikvah. She does not have to bring a sacrifice or anything like that. However, if she has if she yazuv zov, okay, if she has an irregular flow, then we see here, so when it stops, then she counts 7 days, and then she's purified. And then on the 8th day, we would say again the 8th day, so now she has to take two. It's the same thing as for a man when he's pure when he's cleansed of his irregular flow from his private part. So she has to take then 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons. Verse 30, and this is kind of a summary statement now for all of this whole issue of purity and impurity, because now we're going to go into something completely different. Okay, so now this is a summary statement basically for all of the laws of purity and impurity, which start in Leviticus 11, I believe. So here's our summary statement. We zart them, from the word zar, keep them away at bnei Israel mitumatam. So basically, you shall keep them away from their impurity, meaning, well, it explains what it means. So the main thing is if they're impure and they come in contact with the mishkani, with the mishkan, with the tabernacle, then they've impurified the tabernacle, and that's not good. So that's why people, the children of Israel, have to be very careful to not touch anything or come in contact with anything that is part of the tabernacle when they're in a state of impurity. Zot Torat Azav asher tetzeh mimenu zichvat zera nitam'a ba v'hadava b'nidatav azav et zovo lezachar v'nikeva le'ish asher yishkav im tme'ah. So that's a summary sentence for all basically of Leviticus 15. And my battery is just about dead. So I'm going to end it here. It was a short study, but at least we're able to get through the Parsha. Hope you enjoyed it. If a man passes a kidney stone, is that an omission? I don't know how kidney stones are passed? I guess they're passed through the private area. Well, it says specifically zav, which means to flow. I don't think a kidney stone flows. And it also says hechtim, so to stop up. So if I'm not an expert on how kidney stones are passed, but it certainly doesn't flow. It's not a liquid that flows. Zava means to flow, like eretz zavat chalav udvash, a land flowing with milk and honey. It's the same word that's used there. Hechtim means something that's stopped up, but again, I think because it's called a zava or because it's called a zav, that would imply some kind of liquid that basically blocks up the passage, like some liquid that dries up on top. So I would say that no. My opinion would be no. A kidney stone does not would not apply as a zav or a zava. At any rate, even if it does, it doesn't matter in this day and age because there's no issue of purity or impurity. We don't have a temple, so we don't have to stay away from impure things, ritually impure things. The only implications that ritual impurity has is if you were to go bring a sacrifice to the temple, or if you were to come in contact, or if you were to eat something that is, or maybe even come in contact with something that is dedicated to the temple. So at this point in time, anyway, it's not relevant. But even if it were relevant, I don't think a kidney stone would qualify as a zav. So that's it. I'm going to end the Torah study. I'm almost out of batteries, and it's getting late. So I thank you for joining us for this brief but hopefully good Torah study on last week's parsha, Metzora, and hopefully we will pick it up again next week. By the way, just a very, very brief announcement. I've reconsidered. I originally did not want to do a Passover Seder online because I don't know, they just never work. You really have to be in person. But I changed my mind, and I decided that maybe there's some Karaites who are isolated and would really gain something from it. So I am going to do a Karaite Passover Seder online. I'll give an announcement on Facebook and elsewhere tomorrow. And also, I'm going to release the latest edition. I made some improvements, changes. I'm always working on it, but the latest edition of the Karaite Passover Haggadah, which I started working on many, many years ago. I think back in 2011 or 2012. Or something like that. So I'll release the latest edition, and so anyone is free to use that, no cost, no charge. It's just my gift and my service to the Karaite community. So with that being said, I wish everybody a Hag Matzot Sameach starting tomorrow, and a Shabbat Shalom and a Shavuot Tov. I have to end it now because the battery is going dead. Okay, Shabbat Shalom and Shavuot Tov.